That is why many wives feel so alone while talking so much. But what you often share is information, not the emotional experience. You're really giving him the itinerary. He hears the schedule, not the sadness. He cannot comfort a list. Here's why your husband doesn't get you. If your husband hears everything you do, but still doesn't seem to understand how hard life feels for you, you may not be telling him what you think you're telling him. You think you're opening up to him because you're telling him everything that happened that day. But what you often share is information, not the emotional experience. And there's this big difference I want you to see. I'm Irina, I'm a psychologist and marriage mentor. I help wives see the patterns that hurt their marriage so they can change how they show up and help stop the cycle. There is a very important idea in relationship psychology. Intimacy does not grow simply when one person talks. Research identified what builds closeness in relationships, and so many of us have no idea about it. It turns out that not all sharing works the same way. Research makes a clear difference between factual disclosure and emotional disclosure. A factual disclosure gives information. An emotional disclosure gives your inner experience. A factual disclosure sounds something like, I had a hard day, I did the laundry, I picked up the kids, I made dinner, I had to call the school again. All of that is true, but none of it tells your husband what it felt like to be you. An emotional disclosure sounds like, I felt invisible folding laundry on the couch next to you. Or, I felt like a one-woman show today, like nobody had my back. Now he has something to respond to, and that is one of the biggest findings. Facts do not build closeness the same way feelings do. Why? Because when you share a feeling, your husband has something real to connect with. He can comfort it, he can understand and respond to it. But when you only give him facts, there's not much for him to step into. He hears the schedule, not the sadness. He hears the tasks, not the loneliness. And he hears what happened, not what it did to you. So he says, oh, okay, or that's tough. Or he goes back to his phone. And then you feel even more unseen. You believe you're telling him how hard your day was, but you're really giving him the itinerary. And the itinerary does not create intimacy. It gives him information. If you share only facts, he mostly responds to the situation and then moves into fixing mode. He hears tasks, problems, and logistics and responds like a manager. Or he checks out because he cannot fix any of it. He doesn't move into closeness because the conversation never brought him there. We feel close when we feel heard and understood. But if we do just surface sharing, we don't go to a deeper emotional level. This is not a tiny language change. So what should you do instead? Here's the practical part. Translate the fact into the feeling before you say it out loud. Not just, I cleaned the kitchen after dinner, but you say, I felt taken for granted cleaning the kitchen tonight and doing everything by myself. Not just, work was rough, but I felt so small in the meeting today, like I didn't matter. Do you hear the difference? The feeling is the door. The fact is just the doorknob, and you do not have to stop sharing the facts. You just have to pair the fact with the feeling underneath it. That is what opens the emotional space between you. Because if you do not show him the feeling, he cannot respond to the part of you that needs comfort. He cannot comfort a list. He cannot connect to a schedule. He cannot support a task report the same way he can support a real feeling. That is why many wives feel so alone while talking so much. They are sharing plenty of facts, but very little of their actual emotional experience. And then they assume he does not care. He is emotionally unavailable. Sometimes that is true, but many times the bigger problem is that he never got the real emotional material in the first place. This is what you can start practicing. The next time you want to tell your husband about your day, pause and ask yourself, what did this actually feel like to me? Not just what happened, but what did it feel like? Did you feel invisible, overwhelmed, alone, unimportant, embarrassed, dismissed? That is what he needs to hear, because that is what gives him a way into your inner world. Before you tell your husband about your day, take one fact and pair it with one feeling. Just one feeling. For example, when I was doing everything tonight, I felt invisible. That is enough. You do not need a speech or perfect wording. You just need to add the feeling. If you want to understand more about what is hurting your marriage, subscribe. Here I share insights and tools to help women show up differently and build a happier marriage.